I tend to make kind of longer form videos than some folks on YouTube do, and that's because I like taking a deeper dive into stuff. Nothing wrong with just taking kind of a surface view of some of the pieces that we are all passionate about, but I like going a little bit deeper into it. The problem is, for me at least, is that I write kind of an outline, a sketch of where I'd like my videos to go, and sometimes when you're doing that, you start hitting walls, you start going down too many rabbit holes. Am I making this too big? Am I including too much stuff? Are these details too dry and uninteresting? And when I do that, you don't really have much of a choice, but kind of turning it off for a second, taking a walk outside, thinking about where you want to go. And I couldn't help but doing that. Just a couple days ago, I was writing a new video and I was hitting too many walls, so I kind of got up away from my computer and started thinking about the upcoming 4th of July holiday. And that got me thinking about all the different bullion pieces that I have and how the patriotic themes seem to be such an overwhelming majority of the pieces that we see in the stacking community. And that got me thinking, how much fun would that be just to do kind of a light, easy video on bullion that features patriotic themes for the celebration of the upcoming 4th of July holiday. If you're new to the channel, my name is Dubsy. I want to thank you for being here. If you're one of my returning subscribers, thank you guys as always for joining me on this. I think this is going to be a fun one. So many different interesting pieces to look at. We're looking at silver, gold, platinum. We're looking at 3 different areas of patriotic themes on bullion. And we're going to look at some pieces that maybe you don't see very often, so hopefully this will be interesting. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, the analytics that YouTube provides me shows me that about 25% of the people who watch my videos are subscribed. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. It just kind of adds you to the user base of this video series. So if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel and you've watched a couple or 3 or 4 of the videos that I've produced, go ahead and click on that subscription button. I'd love to have you be part of this community. So, patriotic bullion, what a fun, easy thing to think about. I am born and raised in the United States of America. My dad's family, at least, goes back to the early 1700s as far as we can find. And it's a pretty easy chain to look at. We've shared the same last name all the way down the line. And believe it or not, my family has lived in the same community going back that almost 200, probably more than 200 years. With the exact same names passed back and forth generation after generation. That's a beautiful thing to see in a lot of ways. It makes you feel really grounded, proud to be part of this country. But there's nothing wrong if you are an immigrant who has come to the country recently, so long as you are picking up the American ideals and running with them. I want to thank everybody who thinks of America still as the shining beacon on a hill of freedom and ingenuity and prosperity. If you are coming to America to be part of this American experiment, that's a beautiful thing too. Let's celebrate what it means to be an American. I love America. I am a big fan of America, always have been. I am a staunch believer in the separation of powers and the equality of those 3 branches of government. And we'll talk about those in just a minute too. And more important, I want to remind everybody what the 4th of July holiday really means. It was us overthrowing the shackles of those who tried to enslave this country. Americans didn't want a king. We think of all men being created equal, and we overthrew the King of England so that we could set up our own republic, and that's really what it means to me. Let's have everybody be equal in this country. So the 3 areas of patriotic bullion I wanted to talk about, you start going down too many rabbit holes again, right? Because we assume, or we start thinking about every piece of bullion that's been made, even things like 90% can be patriotic. What's on the silver Washington quarter? Why, it's George Washington, founder of the country, right? The founding father in a lot of ways. So that's it's a beautiful coin, and it's one of the most important 90% pieces out there, but it's so common, right? We even have circulating Washington quarters to this day. So I wanted to touch on things that were maybe a little bit less often seen. And the first thing that came to my mind was the silver eagle. And again, silver eagle, that's a common design. It's something that we see all the time. This is Weinman's design for the Walking Liberty half dollar originally, and then it was reproduced on the American Silver Eagle in 1986. So what we're seeing here is an allegorical symbol of liberty. Of course, we've had liberty on so many of our coins. And again, that's another patriotic theme, right? But we see liberty on lots of different countries' coins. That's not really specific to American. But what she's draped in here is definitely specific to America. That is an American flag, and you can see the stars and stripes. You've got the stars up here, you see the stripes down here, uniquely American, and that's what makes this piece beautiful. But again, we see those all the time. One of the all-time most popular pieces of bullion. We'll talk about those vintages in relation to some of these other pieces in just a moment. So I was thinking, what would be interesting that we don't see very often? And the first thing that came to mind after the Silver Eagle was the Prospector from Engelhard. Engelhard, one of the most famous refineries, really one of the biggest refineries to make consumer bullion. These were designed to sell directly to just the average customer out there. Prospector originally launched in 1982 with what we call the Big E variety. This is a roll of 1984s, but you'll see on the back the Big E. That's E for Engelhard, and I think that that's a very well-known and popular style also. And that's what they originally had on the back of them, though in 1983 they made a very short run of proof Engelhard prospectors. I know some of my fellow YouTubers have a very deep collection of those. We'll touch on Silverstruck at some point here in the video. But a small run of proofs in 1983. Then in 1984, it was kind of a transitional year. In 1984, they released these Big E's. That's a 1984, right, with the Big E on the back. But they also released the new style, and this is that beautiful roll of early die-state prospectors that I've talked about before. You can see just how cameo black and white the finish is on these pieces. One of my favorite rolls of Engelhard that I have, of prospectors that I have. And this is why. Yeah, of course, those are beautiful pieces. But the back actually has an eagle with a flag in its claws. Hopefully you can see that okay, the glare is not too bright. A beautiful design. This is a transition, right? They were going from the Big E in 1984 to the flag and eagle on the back in 1984. And this is a roll of 1985s, and it's kind of the same idea. So you've got the regular prospector on the back, and then the flag with the eagle on the back, or the prospector on the front, flag on the back. So this is a beautiful design, and one that Engelhard kind of ran with towards the to the end of their consumer bullion time frame. And we know that because not just with the prospectors did they have this eagle and flag, but also on some of the larger bullion pieces that they made. This is a 10-ounce silver bar. This is, per allengelhard.com, a 3rd series standard commercial bar. And of course, it's in its original vinyl. You know, I'm a big fan of those too. 1986, 1987, mintage on this, take a guess. 10-ounce bar. They made 300,000 of them. That's a whoppingly large amount of silver going directly to the consumer. One of the last bars made by Engelhard, and we're going to compare that. Of course, I pick up the Big E instead. So you can see that design is very, very similar, even almost the same size. But I think on the bar, it's just a little bit more in-depth. You can really see the feathers on the eagle and the stars and stripes on the flag. A beautiful design, one of my favorite private designs. And I think it is actually better than some of the American coinage designs from the same period of time. I think Engelhard really knocked it out of the park. Interesting, 1986, 1987, the end of Engelhard commercial silver. What happened in that period of time? Well, the Silver Eagle launched in 1986, and we'll talk about those mintage differences in just a moment too. So some beautiful, less often seen pieces with the American flag on it. That's the first branch that I wanted to go off. Branches of government, branches of patriotic bullion. You see, I've got kind of a theme going here. The next one I want to talk about is the Statue of Liberty. And I've done an entire video not too long ago, again, on a similar piece that fellow YouTuber Silverstruck got. This is a 10-ounce round made for a company called Manfra, Tadello, and Brooks. That's MTB. And they were, and still are, one of the largest wholesalers of precious metals in the world. If you're a country that needs a steady supply of silver for making silver eagles or silver maples or whatever it is, you might contact a company like MTB. That's how much silver they move, millions of ounces in contract. But in the early 1980s, MTB was also jumping on that consumer silver bandwagon, right? Just like the Engelhard pieces, MTB was providing them. And one of the interesting things is that in these bars, these 1-ounce bars, and we'll take a look at these up close, a beautiful Statue of Liberty design. This is an iconic style bar from the 1980s. I've talked about just how popular these still are to this day. 40 years later, these are still one of the most sought after types of silver bars. But MTB actually contracted with a couple of different makers to make them, actually at least 4 that we know of. So the first one is probably this bar. I like this bar, just a little bit of toning here. We'll talk about tone in some upcoming videos, I promise. I keep on promising, but other things keep on coming up, like Patriotic Bullion. How topical can we be? So some beautiful cobalt and some orange and red here. But if you flip it over on the back, what we're looking for is this right here. You see this very ghostly, and there's a reason it's ghostly. It's a little MA. Can you make that out? That MA stands for Medallic Arts. This was a Bullion design company, a metal arts company that was also in Manhattan, where MTB happens to be. So we think that this is probably the first one, the first bar that MTB commissioned from a private company. In this case, it was Medallic Arts. And what makes this a little bit different, besides from that ghostly MA that you see there, is that there's no copyright anywhere here. We'll see the copyright in a couple of these other pieces. So this is another one of those examples. This one probably came just a little bit later. Still a beautiful design, but when you're flipping this one over, you're seeing the Johnson Matthey logo, right? That's the little hammer logo for JM. And you also see the copyright date. So this has become maybe a larger issue for MTB as they continue to make these pieces. A beautiful piece in its own right. The 1982 was really the first year that they made these. And then here's an example. Engelhard also did make these. This is a 10-ounce bar. The same idea. This 10-ounce bar is what all Engelhard calls a specialty collector bar. And according to all Engelhard, they only made about 7,500 of these. But you can see just how close it is. Maybe her arm's a little bit more detailed here compared to the robe goes down just a little bit further, but it's a very similar design. And we're flipping the 10-ounce bar over, and we definitely see right here that is the Engelhard E. Not quite the big E, but still kind of the same idea. And again, the copyright date, this one a little bit later, 1986. So this is a 10-ounce bar struck for Manfred, Tordello, and Brooks by, in this case, Engelhard. So we have examples from Johnson Matthey, Engelhard, and Medallic Arts. The last one, in silver at least, that I wanted to talk about is this large one. This is a big 10-ounce round. And this one actually has the dates on it. You can see it here, 1886 to 1986. Again, 1986 was the kind of refurbishing of the Statue of Liberty. It was kind of a big deal. It happened in Manhattan, right, or in lower New York. So it's not surprising that MTB, who was located there, would have picked up and run with this entire idea. We're flipping this one over. And rather than seeing, we got the copyright date and MTB, but instead of seeing an Engelhard or a Johnson Matthey or even a Medallic Arts symbol logo, we've got this one, and that is the Mexico City Mint. Interesting. This piece was made in Mexico to celebrate American independence, or at least the Statue of Liberty, for another company, in this case MTB. And also, one of the most interesting things about this, I think, is that this is 4/9 fine. I think this is one of the earliest versions of a consumer 4/9 fine, big round like this that you're going to find. So there's some silver that features the Statue of Liberty. How about some gold that features the Statue of Liberty? 1986 Statue of Liberty, again, that 1986 date. This was something that was on a lot of people's mind. And these gold pieces, these $5 commemoratives, and I've talked about those in the Rookie Gold Buyer series. And we have here a proof version. You can see kind of the black and white between the spokes of her crown. And there is no black and white here. That's how we know that this is uncirculated versus a proof, this being the proof. You can see the black and white versus, I believe there's a copper spot on that one. Beautiful design. I love this design. It's very reminiscent, I think, in a lot of ways of the privately minted pieces. But these each contain just about a quarter ounce of gold in them. And I think they're a beautiful addition to this idea of Statue of Liberty, of the idea of liberty and what it means to be an American. And then the last one I wanted to show is this 2005 Platinum Quarter Eagle. This is a 1969 MS-69 First Strike. What do you think about designations like First Strike? I don't mind paying, getting them if I'm not paying extra for them. That's always kind of been my philosophy about those kinds of things. I don't want to pay extra, but if I can find one, all things being equal, again, Dubsey's choice, I would probably pick up something that's designated a First Strike versus something that isn't, just because you never know what your eventual buyer is going to want, and it's very possible that they will want that First Strike designation. But I think that is a fantastic portrait of the Statue of Liberty there. That is really beautiful. It's maybe not as crisp on the back with the eagle flying above the sunset. It's a beautiful image also, but I really think it's that front that just is fantastic. That's one of my favorite designs on American Bullion. So there we've got silver, gold, and platinum featuring the Statue of Liberty. And then finally, I want to talk about some founding fathers and some of our documents. The first one that I thought about when I was writing this is that I've got a really nice 1993 James Madison Bill of Rights. Father of the Constitution is what he's called. And this is one of those constitutional sets that's made up of the silver dollar, the $5 gold, and then the clad 50-cent piece. But I happened to pick up not too long ago an MS-70 version of this coin from PCGS. And what I really liked about this piece and what really spoke to me is the tone on that. You see how orange and brown that piece is? This is just like that piece. The piece that's here in my left hand is an uncirculated coin, just like this one is. But you can see the difference in tone is just phenomenal. You don't see tone gold very often. We do sometimes see tone gold in these older holders from PCGS. These are called original green holders or older green holders. And that may be what has caused this toning, but I think it's fantastic compared to the other piece. Often you'll find the uncirculated versions of these $5 pieces, these $5 gold pieces, have smaller mintages than the proof versions. We made proof versions of them as well. And the thing that I like about this piece in particular is that this piece is one of only 305 that PCGS has graded MS-70 on that Sheldon scale of 1 to 70. From an entire mintage, that's a very, very small number. And I guarantee you there aren't that many that are in original green holders that have toning like this. So this is one of my favorite modern commemorative pieces. Madison is considered the kind of the father of the Constitution. He was one of the people that wrote the Constitution and really fought to get it ratified. He's the 4th president of the United States. Also, so a very important figure in early American democracy, and I love that idea as well. What else do we have here? We've got Founding Fathers. We've got that entire set, right? And that's kind of neat because these are all different images of Madison. But then we've also got the Constitution set. This Constitution set celebrates the 200th anniversary of the ratification of the Constitution that Madison worked so hard on. And this is 1987. And again, you've got the silver dollar, and then you've got the $5 gold piece. And then we've got a version also of the proof. I believe that's the proof. It is. Proof and the uncirculated versions. And I think these are beautiful pieces as well. You can see that quill there and the words, "We the people." I love that. I love that allegory. I love that sentiment. And I think this is a beautiful design too. A very strong looking, stern looking eagle. I think that's a beautiful piece as well. So some seldom seen or lesser seen gold pieces from the commemorative series celebrating the Founding Fathers. What else do we have? Founding Father. Right here in front and center, Johnson Matthey. And I believe it was Liberty Bleeds who did a piece about this not too long ago, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But these are the Johnson Matthey, sometimes called the 10 Freedoms, sometimes called the Bill of Rights pieces from Johnson Matthey. And these are kind of strange pieces. We don't know that much about them. We think they were made in the mid-1980s. And I propose that these were probably made as a competitor, testing the water. Johnson Matthey, the other big silver refiner at the time, along with Engelhard. I think that JM was actually trying to make something that would compete with the Engelhard, the Prospector. Remember the Engelhard Prospector, about 75,000 pieces a year being sold. And then we had this set that's commonly called the Bill of Rights. But again, not every design on these really correlates to one of the ideas of the Bill of Rights. For example, we've got one of them here that is the right to freedom from slavery. There's no real, amendment to the Constitution, especially in the Bill of Rights, that guaranteed your right from slavery. It's a nice sentiment, but that didn't really happen until after the Civil War, the 13th Amendment, and that wasn't ratified until 1865. So it doesn't really fit in with the idea of these being Bill of Rights. I think that sometimes they're referred to as the 10 freedoms, and I guess I like that idea better. The 10 freedoms makes a little bit more sense to me. And I won't pick up this entire set, but I do happen to have a single of the Second Amendment, right? The right to bear arms. This one is a little bit more closely allied with one of the actual 10 amendments that make up the Bill of Rights. But you see the Johnson Matthey name here, fine silver 999, and there's that JM logo again that we're talking about. These are really nicely designed and really deeply carved and beautiful when you get them in this proof-like finish. The contrast between the fields and the designs, I think, are really beautiful. There's something that says 1980s about these, and I think that's probably accurate. I think these are probably 1985-ish. I believe that I've seen mintages as few as 5,000 pieces. And I've commented before that these pieces seem to be both scarce and easy to be found because, locally, I've probably come across 2 or 3 sets like these in the last 40 years of doing this. But if you look online, especially a place like eBay, you will see this 10 set pretty frequently. And they don't really seem to have that much of a premium either, but they are uniquely American, and I think it is definitely, if not a direct connection to the Bill of Rights, it's at least a nod to them. It's capturing the idea of what those Bill of Rights mean. And I think that's pretty cool. So, like the Prospector, we think that these are probably 1985, maybe 1986. And again, what happened in 1985-86? Well, the American government released the Silver Eagle. So even though there were probably far fewer of these than there were of the Prospector, and the Prospector, somewhere around 5,000 for these, somewhere around 75,000 for the Prospectors every year. The first year that the American Eagle was made, that was 1986, it sold 7 million pieces, including both the uncirculated and the proof versions, the uncirculated like these. And then the next year, 1987, that number surpassed 12 million. So if you're talking about 5,000 or 75,000 versus 12 million, I think both JM and Engelhard saw the writing on the wall and realized that the future was probably going to be the Silver Eagle. There was no reason to try to compete with something like that. And we see both of them kind of disappear slowly after that. There's not a whole lot from Engelhard or JM following the release of the Silver Eagle. So some beautiful, fascinating pieces in silver, in gold, in platinum that celebrate 3 different areas of patriotic bullion. The pieces that speak to me the most, the American flag, we've got the Statue of Liberty, we've got the Founding Fathers and the documents that they represented that really made America unique and different from so many other countries of the world. If you are an American like I am, congratulations. I want to thank you for being part of our great American experiment. May she last for another 300 years at least. If you're watching from overseas, I hope you'll celebrate with us the idea of freedom, of personal responsibility, and equality under the law. I think there are beautiful concepts, and I hope that you can appreciate them along with us. Let's get rid of all the clutter that seems to happen sometimes and just focus on what really makes America a great country. I still believe it is the greatest country that has ever been and that will ever be. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, go ahead and click on that subscription button. If you have any questions about any of the pieces that we talked about here today, I know this was a lot to throw at you, but let's have some fun with it, right? Let's celebrate independence through one of the things that we are also most passionate about, precious metals. Leave a question down below if you've got one. I like to say if you've got a question, other people probably have it too. Let's see if we can answer it for everybody. If you have any suggestions on videos or ideas, video series that you'd like to see me make, leave a comment down below and I'll see if I've got the experience, the expertise, and the examples so we can take a look at that and maybe make a video or a series of videos for you also. And as always, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey as we go deeper into the world of coins and physical precious metals.